health promotion for New South Wales Health. But not so long ago, I was a primary teacher for nearly 18 years in the Wollongong region. So I can definitely relate to what you've all faced over the last couple of years, the challenges that you've faced in teaching, but also, you know, in your communities with your families around what we've experienced too with floods and fires and obviously COVID. So we appreciate all the hard work that you've done and that you've stuck it out and you're still here, and the work that you've done in your communities. We're presenting from Gambanga, Dunghutti and Biripi lands, which is here on the mid-north coast of New South Wales between Coffs Harbour and Port Macquarie. We'd love to see where you're all from. If you want to just pop your school and region into the chat, that'd be fantastic. Our last presentation, we had people from across the entire state and also in other states. So it's great to see you here today. Just a reminder to keep your sound on mute, but if you have any questions along the way, pop them into the chat function, and hopefully at the end we'll get time and we'll get back to answering those. So what I'll do is I'll hand it back over to Teisha and Lachie for acknowledgement of country. And our presentation today around a great local research program we did here on the mid-north coast, but definitely could relate in any setting to all the schools that we have here today. Obviously, we've all got different experience and backgrounds working in very large schools and small schools, but this particular program can be adjusted to your school to meet the needs of your students and also your staff. So thanks. I'm going to hand it over to Teisha.
Great. Thanks so much, Gav. Hi, everyone. I'm Teisha Schirmer and I work here on the Mid-North Coast as a health promotion officer. A lot of the work that I do with Gav is around improving student health and wellbeing, children health and wellbeing as well, across a range of different settings like education, clinical, and, you know, in the non-government sector as well. So we're really fortunate, and also feel really fortunate to be here today as well, and to see so many people here. I'm just going to share my screen. So just bear with me for 2 seconds. Perfect. Now, can you all see that? Great. Well, before I do get started, I would like to acknowledge the incredible schools that were a part of this evaluation, as well as a lot of the organisations that supported with this evaluation as well. I'd also like to acknowledge the traditional owners on the lands on which we're meeting today and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I'm meeting here on Gumbaynggirr land up in beautiful Coffs Harbour. And I'd also just like to throw a big acknowledgement out to all of you here today. Like Gav said, we know you've been through, you know, some of the toughest times in, you know, probably not only your careers, but also our personal lives as well. And so any of you here who, you know, teachers, principals, support officers, whatever you do, you know, we're so thankful that you've still been able to continue and find innovative ways to educate our children. And so we understand that with the restrictions, the regulations and the lockdowns, you know, our relationships with food, our feelings of connectedness, our exercise, sleep and wellness routines have become difficult to maintain. And this is just a recent scoping review that I did find. And this was done at the end of last year. And pretty much I've just done up this diagram just to show you that, you know, I'm sure it's no surprise to any of you. We've seen, you know, increases in screen time and sedentary time with decreases in physical activity and, you know, sleep, particularly, you know, sleep problems as well in children. But, you know, I think this just highlights that it's more important, you know, now than ever that we create these opportunities for our children, teachers and families to get outside and get reconnected. You know, and I don't want to be too much of a negative Nancy as well. You know, we've learned so much from COVID. We've all learned how to be a bit more innovative, particularly when it comes to technology. I mean, look at us all here today. you know, it's enabled opportunities to be able to connect around the globe, and also to be able to access more, you know, current evidence-based information. So speaking of which, hopefully today's session can inspire and motivate you all to, you know, get not only our students, but also the whole community, school community active. And so today's session, you know, we'll be looking at what is Kilometre Club, the evaluation that we did, some of the outcomes that we saw, how to get started. And then we've got Lockie here as well, who will be talking about how he implements Kilometre Club at Kendall Primary School up in the Mid-North Coast in New South Wales. We've got a Q&A at the end, but please feel free to pop in the chat if you do have any questions throughout. Happy to, you know, engage with you all and have some conversations as well. So just going to move this. I see that that's, I think, on the screen. But before I do delve into the evaluation, I really just wanted to share this with you all. So we did this workshop about a month ago now, it would have been. And we had, I think, around 35 schools that were who engaged and participated in the workshop. And one of the schools who was involved just sent me last week some of these awesome photos and a really nice email just to say that they've actually started the Kilometre Club, and they printed out some of these resources as well that we provided at the end of the session. So, you know, I just want to emphasize, guys, like if you have, you know, if you get this program started, or you've already doing something that's similar, please send through your photos, your videos. We love to see, and we want to know how you guys implement it as well, because, you know, the more schools that get involved in this, the more lives we get to change. So what is Kilometre Club? So for any of you here that hasn't heard of it, the Kilometre Club is a grassroots school-based physical activity program, and it's run in multiple schools on the Mid-North Coast. And so it encourages students to run, walk or jog at their selected pace. And, you know, some schools run it on an oval, some run it on a track that they've developed with the students, and some run it before school, during school, 2 days a week to 3 days a week. I just wanted to throw out there, are any of you running something similar? We've heard names like Run Club, Walking Club, K a Day, Walking Bus, Daily Mile. There's so many. I just wanted to see if any of you are running something like this.
I tried to get up and running this year. Sorry, it's me. And
Hi,
I did call
Lisa.
it, hi, I did call it Run Club.
Yeah.
But I think I didn't actually get one session in because we had that much rain. So it became a workout in the hall instead. We kind of had to improvise a little bit.
Yeah.
So it is something that like I was going to plan to do, especially in the lead up to cross country. But yeah, wasn't as successful as I was hoping, but I tried.
Yeah, I think a lot of people have had that problem at the moment, haven't they, with the rain? But yeah, that's a really good point that you made there in terms of the lead up to cross country. There's a couple schools in particular that participate in this evaluation that found that as a really useful and motivating way to get kids active and ready for cross country. And some have had more than ever actually participating now in their sports days, their cross country days as well. So hopefully this rain clears up. We do talk a little bit about how that has been a barrier and what some schools have done as well to overcome that. Was there anyone else as well that has run something similar? Or a lot of you on here wanting to run something like this? I can't actually see the chat. So if someone's put in there, oh, here we go. I've got the chat. Run around Australia at our school, and that's been going on for many years. Yeah. Is that the race around Australia that was sent out, Jessica, through I think it was through the New South Wales government? No? Okay, that's all right. Well, I might continue with this. And like I said, hopefully this will inspire you guys to be able to start something, you know, even if it is only a couple days a week as well. I see Jessica's replied here. I think it's implemented before my time, but it's been revived. Yeah, great. Perfect. And so I'll just show you guys an example of some of the delivery models that have been implemented. So these are the 4 schools that we did the evaluation with. You can see they all vary. They've all run it differently, and they all, adapted to suit their school. I'll send this presentation out after as well, so that you all have access and you can see, maybe what sort of model would suit your school. And so I just want to give a big shout out to this woman here who's Deb Baker, and she's from Hastings, and they established the Kilometre Club back in, when was it now? I think 2014. So it's been running for about 8 years now. And like I said, though, other schools call it something different. They run something similar. But Deb Baker was one of the ones that we did the evaluation with and learned how they started and to implement the school. To implement the program. And I'll just play this.
Without the help of our parents, they started to put their joggers on in the morning and get involved. And then as the program became more and more popular, I realised that I needed some more help. And so I just started to ask some parents if they'd like to help. And they were very, very eager to help with. So now they pretty much run the whole program.
And that's it. And, I guess Deb Baker highlights here that it was one passionate teacher. That's all it took. And now there are, heaps of parents who are actually running the program at Hastings as well. And so what's so special and unique about KM Club is it's grassroots led. So, it's bottom up rather than top down. It's been designed by the schools. And we know that schools are important settings to implement health promotion programs. But we've seen so many, particularly, working in public health and health promotion, we've seen it before where some of these programs that get delivered from, top down, they work in these controlled research settings, but they often fail to translate into minimally controlled settings and aren't so sustainable. And so that's why we set out to evaluate Kilometre Club, because it has been sustainable and we've seen that. And that's because it's a grassroots program. And so the evaluation, like I said, we conducted it in 4 schools on the Mid-North Coast because that's where we knew that it was being run. And it was in Aldervilla, Hastings, North Haven and Kendall Primary School. And so the aim of the program was to understand the enablers, the barriers and the benefits of Kilometre Club, as well as the effects of student physical activity levels. And we also wanted to get an understanding of some of the delivery models as well. And so when we look at the methods that we used, first of all, what we actually did was we went into the schools and we put accelerometers, which are like pedometers, and we put them on all the kids who participated in the evaluation. And so we tracked their steps from Monday to Friday for over 2 weeks. It was really fun. The students were super excited and they were just so amazing and careful with these pedometers. I think we had 100 and we had 2 that were lost all up. They really enjoyed being part of this and getting to actually track their steps as well. And so we had, out of the 3 schools who participated in the physical activity measures, we had one who we looked at the participants versus non-participants, so those who did Kilometre Club and those who didn't. And then we had 2 schools who we just tracked the participants' Kilometre Club days with their non-Kilometre Club days. So it gave us a bit of an opportunity to see, I guess, some of the differences as well between a Kilometre Club student and then a non-Kilometre Club student, and when they weren't running in Kilometre Club as well. And so we also did some interviews, which are really good because we got to get a real understanding of how not only families, but teachers, principals, we had grandparents as well, how they all felt about Kilometre Club, as well as the parents and families who actually didn't partake. So we were able to get that from both sides. So those perspectives from both sides. So we're able to see, what were some of the barriers that may have prevented families from actually participating in Kilometre Club. And so these are some of the physical activity outcomes that we saw for those 3 schools. So the first school, who runs it 5 days a week and during, and who we compared participants with non-participants, we saw a 10% increase in their steps. For the school that runs it 4 days a week, where we compared participants' days versus non-participant days, we saw a 15% increase. And then for school 3, who runs it 2 days before school, we saw a 4% increase between participants and non-participants. This one was a little bit hard because we only were able to get data in week 2, because week 1 unfortunately was impacted by weather disruptions, which I've got here, which was actually when the fires were. But something fun that I just did for this was just add up the total steps over that 2-week period over 114 Kilometre Club students. And so you can see these students ran from Darwin, Adelaide, all the way up to Brisbane, and that was equivalent to 5,500 kilometres, which is huge, you know, just over 2 weeks, and that's about 114 students. And so I guess this is a really special part of the evaluation, you know, where we really got to see some of those health and wellbeing impacts that it had on our students, you know, and our teachers and parents as well. So we saw increased fitness and participation in sport. And we saw social connectedness for children and parents. So parents were actually, you know, who participated in the program, even if it was 1 day a week, felt like they were able to actually connect more with their kids, as well as their kids' friends as well. And as well as, other parents as well. Improved mental health and well-being outcomes. You know, we had some kids who had anxiety, struggling, you know, wanting to go to school, who, you know, felt like they were more inclined and motivated. Huge one that came out of it was improved home and classroom behaviours, and I'm sure this is a really relevant one for you guys as well. I know that one school who actually started doing the before school program now has some of their classes running it during the class as well, and it'll literally just be it could be just 5 minutes. They'll just get the kids to go out, do a quick lap, just to calm them down, you know, if they're being a little bit erratic, or to actually get them a little bit more motivated again. Improve concentration and eagerness to learn. And then greater family bonding as well, which I did speak about before, but some families were saying that, you know, they were feeling like the kids were more motivated to actually, you know, go out and run outside of school as well. And so I'll just thought I'd let you hear from one of our little participants.
Well, it just wakes my brain up, and then I'm ready just to get working.
And then there was a few others as well, one of the parents as well that partook.
The program really enhances family activity and family involvement in the whole Kilometre Club. So you can go there and, you know, volunteer over the morning and help the kids get started.
And then one of the teachers.
The benefits of the school is that it's a way we can get our kids active and socialising in a really easy manner. It doesn't cost us anything. Our kids are really enthusiastic. Our student leaders run the program really effectively, and it's just a bit of fun. Even our staff get involved and do a few laps themselves.
And so I think this impacts, I wanted to show you all these three videos because it demonstrates how this impacts and benefits all levels, you know, within the school community. And I've just, when I was going through the transcripts from the evaluation, there was one that really, really stuck with me. And this was from one grandparent that was interviewed who was saying that their grandchild had, you know, severe anxiety regarding going to school. You know, they just couldn't get them to go to school, or it was, you know, it was a huge hassle. But since doing Kilometre Club, they have wanted to go to school every day, even when Kilometre Club wasn't commencing. But I'll let you guys read this for 2 seconds from the perception of the grandparent. And so I guess what this demonstrates is, you know, that this program can have transformational outcomes, for not only children, but, grandchildren, families, across all those different levels. And so I don't think I mentioned before, but we also did some student emoji tasks. So within the interviews, we actually got the children that participated in Kilometre Club to fill out how they felt about Kilometre Club. And you can see most of them had really positive, felt really positive, proud, fantastic, confident. Some felt unfit and weak. There was only one, but I get it. I feel that way too sometimes when I go for a run. But there was also one student talking about how a Kilometre Club made them feel, and I've got that on video here.
The best thing I love about this session is that you get to be with all your friends and like having fun.
And so when we actually look at now the enablers, so I showed you the health and wellbeing impacts, but when we actually look at what the teachers felt were the enablers for actually embedding and implementing Kilometre Club into their school, you can see here, there was a heap. So the availability of parents and teachers, which is, I guess quite understandable. The incentives to encourage participation, flexible and adaptable delivery models, so children can, run, jog, walk. Having teachers and champions who can actually choose the delivery model as well. So having that flexibility, they all felt that Kilometre Club was cost, nothing. It was very minimal and very minimal resources required as well. Having those versatile facilities is really important to prevent boredom and cater for all abilities of children as well. And then, like we were talking about before, that integration into school curriculum, or also sports carnivals as well. So I guess, it just highlights that, you can start small and let it build. And so one of the so when we look at the incentives as well, across all the schools felt like, incentives weren't actually required for sustainability, but they were really helpful for encouraging and motivating students to get started. So, perhaps when you're first starting Kilometre Club at your school and you want to increase student participation, maybe just, having a few incentives to get them started as well. I know that Lockie here, he plays music from a speaker and, he'll get the students to pick what song or to hold the speaker as they go for their walk or their run. Some also track the total kilometres run on Australian map, which is really cool because, they get to visualize like, oh, this is how many, kilometres that I'm running during the day. All schools used stamp cards, some sort of like stamp card system to track the steps as well. And that's also a really good motivator. Some also use the certificates as well. And I'll just show you a video of, some teachers and students talking about how they implement the program and incentives.
Each lap we do, we get a paddle pop stick, and then at the end of our 15 minutes, we count up our paddle pop sticks.
So they are logging their laps in a spreadsheet, and so there's direct links to the classroom and to mathematics.
We have groups that are set up for the maths group, and they're the ones that take all our data and how many laps we run, and the promotions group, they read up on the benefits of exercise and hopefully relaying some of the information like in our newsletter and on posters.
And so, this might just be a good example for any of those who, don't do exactly PDHBE or PE, might teach maths. Deborah, that might be, some examples for you of how you can link that, in with the maths as well that you're teaching. And so obviously, there's always going to be barriers. That's why we spoke to, all the teachers, the parents, the students around what they felt their barriers were. And so, some of them are pretty obvious. We've all seen it's been a very, very wet summer and winter. So, some felt that, that it was hard to have options when, it was wet outside, and some of the students, with their shoes and that, getting them wet. Some children just preferred to socialize with their friends who don't participate. Some younger children felt nervous to participate. We also had some parents say that their children didn't participate just because they might have health reasons like asthma or disabilities. And then that physical environment as well. So, there weren't any, obviously, who implemented this in cities, but there was one school who said that he actually used to implement a similar program in the city, which can make it a little bit harder because they don't have as much green space as well. And then one of the other things was one of the parents whose children don't participate said that that's just because they weren't able to drop their kids before school. And so I've put this together for you all. And like I said, we'll be sharing this afterwards. And it's just some simple strategies for overcoming those barriers that I just spoke about. So what we found is that what might be a barrier at one school is a facilitator at another school, vice versa. And so, just some examples here, something that came up, student disengagement. So if students are getting bored of Kilometre Club, it might just be getting, changing up the track termly. So, you could do this during, if you're teaching maths, you could incorporate it into maths and get the children to actually go out, draw up their own map, teach them, how about kilometers and distances as well, incorporate that Australia map into it as well. If there's teacher unavailability, we saw that Hastings actually have the parents now involved who volunteer as well. Younger kids who might feel nervous, or children with disabilities or health issues, we've seen some schools who are actually buddy up the kids with older students, or buddy them up with their parents as well. So it's getting the parents active in the morning as well. So like I said, there's many different options and strategies that might overcome some of those barriers that you might be all thinking about. And like I said before, we'll distribute this out afterwards as well. And if you have any questions, please just throw them in the chat. So I guess the overall, conclusion that we had with this evaluation was that the program, it needs to be flexible and it needs to be adaptable, because there's no one size fits all approach to implementing school-based physical activity programs. I'm sure you've all worked in multiple different schools, and you'd see that certain things that might work at one school might not work at another, vice versa. So it's about having those flexible and adaptable factors to meet the school environment as well. I see something in the chat. Oh, no sound. Sorry, that was from ages ago. Great. And so if you're all wondering, how you can get started, we have developed some resources. So we've got some stamp cards there as well, just some certificates and a tip sheet as well to get started. These can now all be accessed on our website. So I'll just click into this, and this will be sent out as well with that email. So we've got a little Kilometre Club hub on our Mid North Coast LHD page. It's got that video, so you'll see all the video clips that were in my presentation. They're all in here. Gives a really nice overview from the teachers, parents, and students' perspectives. The evaluation as well, there's actually the report that's in here as well if you want to read that a little bit more detail. I know that one school who was running this in all their classes, and were told that some classes weren't going to run it anymore. They actually showed this report to their principal, and this report was able to make a real case for why it should still be run during these classes. So it was only 5 minutes during each class, but it was just a real, helpful sort of argument to put forward. And then the resources are all on here as well. And then the workshop video from last time as well. So if anyone misses it, but we're also recording this today as well. So here are my contact details, Gavin's, Lockie's. If you have any questions after this presentation, more than happy for you to just send me out an email. Like I said, like any videos or photos, we'd love to see and know how you've all started your own Kilometre Club. And like I said before, you can start small and let it build. So I'll stop sharing my screen here. Did anyone have any questions about the evaluation at all? If you can think of anything, just throw it in the chat whilst Lockie does his presentation. Now I'll hand it over to Lockie from Kendall Primary School.
Okay, now let's see if I can share my screen properly this time. Let's do. Can we see that? If I go. Did that work? Perfect.
Yeah, that's worked.
Okay,
Lockie.
thank you, because I just don't know what you see compared to what I see. So I'd just like to acknowledge that I'm hosting this meeting from the lands of the Biripi people. I pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. For my slide that I'm going to present, I'm going to give you an overview, our school setting, our Kilometre Club model, the elements for a successful implementation, school level positives for us, and of course the barriers that you may face for implementing Kilometre Club in your school. We are located on the glorious mid-north coast. Our school has roughly 230 kids and we are sitting at about 9 classes. We present Kilometre Club on Monday and Thursday mornings. It is completely up to the students if they would like to participate or not. We do it after the last bus arrives or as it is expected. If the kids are late, they are able to catch up for us. We run it from terms 1 to term 4, but we usually start and finish about halfway through 1 and 4 due to our weather. We do usually hit high 30s in the summer. And if it's already hit a temperature of 30 before we leave, we don't usually go. Elements for a successful implementation for us. We originally aimed to track our kilometres and try and make it around Australia. It turns out that 25,000 kilometres was not going to be an achievable goal. We just didn't have the numbers of students we needed to get around with our 2-day model that we were implementing. So we changed our map around Australia to New South Wales. So we set off each week. We recorded the number of kids that were participating just with tallies. We did a quick bit of maths on our map and the kids would take it in turns to mark out on the map as we headed south. So similar to what Teisha was saying before, showing us the Darwin to Brisbane journey from the Kilometre Club study, we did a little distance breakdown. So this table is just a quick breakdown of how the number of your participants and the number of days or sessions you complete can actually add up. So the perimeter that we've shown, so for example, Cape York to Melbourne is 3,700 kilometres. The distance around New South Wales is 4,500, distance around Australia is 25,000. And if you so want the challenge of the Earth's circumference, depending on the size of your school, you're looking at about 40,000. This is based on 40 weeks of the year, a kilometre a day per participant. So if you have a look on the left, if you would recognise sort of, if you've got 40 participants in your school, if you do it 5 days a week, you're looking at 8,000 kilometres. Okay, so there is a way to drum up your numbers pretty quickly, depending on how many sessions that you do as well. We then changed. So for the following year, 2017, we introduced a punch card systems to track our participation on a personal level. So they set their own goals. Some of them coloured in the dot that they wanted to reach. Some of them collected more than one card as they went because they were reaching those goals. And we then decided, sorry, that was our punch card, yep. And for us, a huge motivation for our kids is music. As soon as the music starts in the morning on our quadrangle, it's almost as if it is the Pied Piper. They love the chance to carry the speakers. I do provide 2 of the JBL speakers of my own as we head off. They choose the playlist, they choose the songs, because obviously I'm much older than what they realise, and I don't have the same music taste as them. So they love to provide me with some new TikTok trending songs and things that I obviously have to clear before we go. Our newest initiative is that we have timekeepers at the end. So kids who might not feel like participating in the walk that day, but we do record our top 5 fastest runners and we put it down on a sheet. So each other participant who wants to track their time can see at the end of the kilometre, because we do keep a 6 timer going, so they can track their own time if they feel like that's something that they would like to do. The biggest asset for Kilometre Club that we have is that we are set on about 19 acres, and our kids have the option to walk through a forest with several paths to trek through if they feel, or they can head straight down the laneway to our bottom oval. So kids will pass horses, they'll pick flowers, they jump a creek if they want. The speed is absolutely flexible, which is what is really helpful for our kids. So some kids choose to bring a football along the way, they choose to do a 100-metre race, and some choose to walk the whole track. So it's one of the best aspects of this program, that it is so flexible and can suit different attitudes and moods of the kids daily. So some days they might feel like running the full kilometre and getting their time, and some days they just want a social walk with their mates, which is a really great part of Kilometre Club. Next. So some school level positives. I do have some dot points if you'd like to look through, or I'll read them actually. So getting our kids active is really helpful. It's a great way for, you know, leaving some baggage at home. They're coming with a lot of baggage, our kids, and it's just a great way to straight away get their mind off it if they can. It's an opportunity for them to take responsibility for their own health. They can develop a healthy and positive attitude towards physical activity, and it's in a familiar and comfortable environment at their own pace. It can be twice a week if they want, it can be once a term, it's completely up to them. That way they can develop a commitment to their health. It's also a great opportunity for K-6 interactions for us, because it is K-6, and sometimes the kindies love a buddy. They love to walk with year 6 down to the oval, and the year 6 love the responsibility too to have that interaction with kindy. A big part is that is less congestion on the playground. We usually have about 60 to 70 kids do Kilometre Club on a good day, and removing 60 kids out of 230 is so helpful for morning duty. And I know that I would appreciate it. However, I'm the teacher that does it, so I'm not sure how it actually feels, but I'm sure that teachers would love that in the mornings. All the kids in our school setting do have access to this program. And depending on your implementation and time, you know, it's extra time to tick off for expected physical activity time in schools. So the barriers, it's no secret that when it rains in New South Wales, it absolutely pours. So this is one of the biggest barriers that we do face. We run our Kilometre Club in the morning, so if it has rained the night before, this also does cause issues, as you know, we don't want wet feet for the rest of the day, but it's about having an adaptation if you need, if you can utilise a track that isn't on grass, if you can do extra laps on a quadrangle or an extra walk, it is really helpful if you have that in your setting. And other barriers that we face, as we all know, between camp, reports, sports, assemblies, photos, excursions, and everything else that pops up. Sometimes we just cannot fit this into our week. But the beauty of Kilometre Club is that it is so flexible that depending on when you are running it, you can have catch-up days or you can miss it if you need. That is my presentation, but I do have Q&A option if you'd like to open it now, or you can do it later, Tish, Gav, that's up to you. But it was on my slideshow, so I put it in for you.
Thanks, Lockie. Yeah, we'll open it up to everybody in just a moment. If you've got any questions about anything that you've listened to today, I think Lockie's a great example of the diversity of the schools that we come from. As you can see, we're on the Mid-North Coast. We are spoilt for choice as far as areas to use. But we've definitely seen this work just as well in metropolitan schools or schools that don't have that sort of green space. It just takes a little bit of thinking about how you can best do it. I've seen it used where the hall has been used on wet days. I've seen the play equipment being incorporated as part of sort of a circuit type thing. In the schools also that I've worked in, I've seen it work really well in the mornings as part of breakfast programs, which many schools have due to the complex issues of families. And it's a great place where those conversations can be had with potential parents, or maybe it's a great place to be able to talk to kids, difficult kids, before they enter the classroom to sort of get an evaluation of their headspace. But I've also seen it, it's difficult sometimes getting staff involved. And one of the schools I was at incorporated as part of their duty roster. So even if it ran in the morning, you would have one of those duty rosters removed. And that was a good way to keep it equal across across the school. What you really need is just someone who's passionate to help run this. And I would definitely say, as Lachie said, get involved. Those buddy programs, those student leaders, they're the ones that can help run this to make it sustainable. And it definitely works if you involve the school community as part of it. Very differently from what you might have seen in the last couple of years around the Premier Sporting Challenge or Race Around Australia. They both require such a big commitment, and oftentimes you might not be able to do that 5 days a week in your school, and you can basically make it fit your timetable. As we know, there's many disruptions to the school week, particularly in timetabling, and this is where something as flexible as this can be used. And as Teisha said, I think the important thing also is that we have seen, particularly in our work, working with active kid vouchers, that there are less and less kids who are joining organised sport. And so sometimes this is the only place where kids can get that away time from screen time. And it's a really value added thing to start in your school. As we know, that these types of things, these initiatives are sometimes those plus things that are great to promote for your school community. So I'll open it up and see if anybody's got any questions. I did see that Lisa from Balgownie. Hi, Lisa. I used to teach at Russellvale, so not far away. She's put there, is there an app that can track student laps with an individual barcode for each student? I personally haven't seen something as good as that. Most of the ones that we've seen have just been running with stamp cards or paddle pop sticks or charts. Getting kids to measure the course is a great one too, for maths reasons. That's really, really good. And I've got Alyssa here. It's got, do you run Kilometre Club the whole year round? That's a really good question for you, Lachie.
Yeah, we do not run it all year, depending on weather. That is our biggest impact. But we try to start as early as we can in term one. This year it was very mild weather. However, we had so much rain in term one that it really impacted on us starting Kilometre Club. And I also wanted to jump back for the app to track students' laps. I was actually looking into this not long ago. And I think if anybody on here participates in Park Run in New South Wales, I'd be interested to know. I think you can generate your personal QR code. So similar to us having a punch card, maybe generating a personal QR code might be a way. I have not looked into it completely, but that might be something that someone might be able to shed light on in this. Yeah, otherwise, no, I have not looked into it very much at all.
Yeah, I was going to say, does anyone here have any insight into how to track students' laps in more of a, I guess, through an app? And it was saying, like, as Gav was saying before, yes, a lot of students will use the stamp cards, and then teachers will have like an Excel spreadsheet where they'll track those. And pop those in. But yeah, I haven't seen anything that's as convenient as a QR code. But that's a really good point, Lockie, you made about parkrun. Has anyone else seen anything similar? No. Did anyone have any other questions apart from those questions in the chat? See another familiar face on here. Hi, Kane. Are you all thinking about running something similar to Kilometre Club? Yeah, great.
We're thinking of doing something around a sports club at lunchtime to give access to all kids, and then have it as an opportunity one morning potentially for some other students to be able to go through and burn some energy before they come to class with some of our higher needs students as well. So
yeah, great, Kane. You have to tell me more about that when you get it started. Have to pop down for a day. Yeah.
And I think also if you're thinking about utilising it at lunchtime, utilising older children is such a great way. When we first started, we used to have a couple of kids wearing orange vests who were, they were in charge of making sure they're at the back, and we had kids at the front that would lead it, because they do want to be involved so much. We have a thing at school, which is called Quest, which is the kids who, it's part of like, I guess, your SRC, and they run individual sports programs at lunchtime. So that could be a way of implementing Kilometre Club as well for you in your school setting.
Yeah, we were thinking of using our sports captains. We've got 6 of our sports captains as part of their role and responsibility. So give them something, and actually they can actually record the kilometres for all the kids as an extra mass task for those kids as well. So,
and I think especially for your sports captains, I know for us, we don't utilise them as much as what we do for our other leadership. We run parliament, so they've all got individual jobs every week, but I feel like your sports captains are your swimming, carnival, athletics and cross country, and then it's sort of like, what do you do for the rest of the time? But I think utilising them is such a great way too. And it makes that role too really desirable, not just your fallback if you didn't for some reason get school captain or something different.
And I think too, with Aspect MacArthur, who emailed me last week, they were saying that they were running something similar just 1 day a week, though. They're now running it 3, but they didn't have a name for it. So in the past, it hadn't been so sustainable. So I guess, like we said, like you can adapt to however you like, but we've had feedback from some schools that having that name and then having those few, like resources as well really helps with that motivation and sustainability as well, because students feel like they're working towards something as well. Did anyone else have anything? Was anyone else thinking about implementing it in their school? Had any questions about it? How many days a week do you think you'll run it, Deborah?
I only teach 2 days, but the other teacher also does fitness. So probably we might be able to squeeze in 3. And it would be during school time, and because we only have 7 students, it would be all students would be involved. It wouldn't be optional.
Yeah, great. Oh, I can't wait to hear about it. Awesome. Well, we might wrap that up. I forgot to mention too that anyone who participated today goes into the draw to win a $200 heart voucher. And so last time, one of the schools was Aspect MacArthur that I just spoke about before. So in that picture, you would have seen they all had boxes, and that was they all had boxes of sporting resources and materials that they're now using to not only implement Kilometre Club, but other sports and recreational stuff that they're doing as well. So hopefully that will help some of you out who was lucky enough.
We've just got,
and we've got 2 questions from
Melissa. Oh, 2 questions, yeah.
Sorry.
Sorry, I'll just unmute myself. I just had 2 questions. I just don't know how they're silly questions, but do the punch cards keep track of the amount of kilometres they run each day? And my other question was, when you're doing it, like how long does it go for? If you're doing it in the morning, are you setting an amount of time, and our students encouraged to run more than 1 kilometre in the morning if you run it in the morning. It was just a sort of just some logistic questions.
So the punch card, ours was they can have as many as they want. I spend a lot of time at the start of the year laminating individual punch cards that some kids use one day and then never again. But on the punch card, it might contain, 24 kilometres on that card, because the most kilometres they can do if they run that one session, if it's 2Ks, 10, 20, is 80 Ks sort of thing each for the year. But that sort of tracks theirs. I think other people do it differently. If you want it bigger, you can obviously include more, but ours is quite small because they're not going to end up doing that many laps. Some of our kids run more than 1 kilometre because, as I said, we are very lucky. They can get to our bottom oval, which, we've got the 800 metre track, we've got a 100 metre track, so they can do extra if they like. We set off about 25 to 9 and our bell goes at 5:02 and we're all back by then. Even the kids that walk, we are back in time for the bell to start for assembly.
And
perfect.
Also,
answered all my questions. Thanks.
I'll just share my screen quickly. This is just one of the resources that we'll share with you here. And like Lockie said, like everyone does it differently, but it's more just tracking the kilometres that they're doing throughout that actual, say, term. But, like we said, you can adapt that to fit your school context as well. And then we also had another question here. Oh, from Chad. Hi, Chad. It's not a question. Oh, hello. Yeah. So you've got an app that you can recommend.
Yeah. So realistically, I put the link in there. And realistically what it is, it's actually a business app that scans barcodes for inventory, for stock. And you can actually set it up so it's got each kid's name and each kid has an individual barcode. And then when they run around, you can scan it and then it'll actually track the nut. Like, so each time you scan it, it'll add a 1, a 2, a 3, a 4. So you can do it that way. So there's a little bit of a case study there on where to find some of that info as well. So if you start looking at that electronic source, you could do it that way.
Perfect. So you've seen this being done in some schools?
Yeah. Like I've seen a few schools use similar things, like with similar programs, like this one as well. So especially like at Colour Run and fundraisers and things like that as well. So yeah, so it's one way to get sort of a bit of a loophole to get around it.
Oh, thank you, Chad. Legend.
And yeah, I just had a look at that link too, and it looks pretty straightforward too, that you can directly go from your phone, go to your Google Drive, whatever it's going to go to, and upload into an Excel. So it does look very easy.
Yeah, so you can print that out as well and do whatever you want with it.
And that's another incentive for children. Love technology. And I just think
don't they?
Extra link again. Absolutely. I mean, I love hole punching, but I think that is a fabulous resource, Chad. Well done.
Great, thank you. Did anyone have anything else they could recommend, or any other questions or just comments? No, great. Oh, well, thank you so much, everyone, for your input. It's been really great to meet you all. And like I said, we'll be in contact with you all within the next couple of months just to see how you've all gone. And if you're all implementing something, it doesn't matter. Like I said before, just start small and let it build. Thank you so much. And I hope you all have a great afternoon. Oh, thanks, Jules. I agree.
Yes, absolutely. So many positives. Bye, Ruth.